Brian at RealFixesRealFast.com. Today we're going to tell you a little bit about how to test for a head gasket leak. We're working on a postal truck right now. It's got a GM 2.2 engine in it, and it does have a head gasket leak. We're going to show you a couple different methods to be able to test that. The principle behind a head gasket leak is that combustion gases or hydrocarbons that are supposed to go out the exhaust are leaking past either the head gasket or through a crack in the head, and they're actually leaking into the piston chamber and then being mixed with the coolant. So it's mixing hydrocarbons in the coolant, and that's what we're testing for. Now they make a kit like this. It comes in various forms, but it's basically a test tube with some test fluid. And this test fluid is blue, and you fill up just a little bit of this in here. Now we're using a light here to kind of help you see that this fluid is blue, but believe me, it may not show up on the video, but it's a clear sky blue type color. When combustion gases mix with this, it'll turn it green, a very distinct green color. Now what you do is pour a little fluid in here and you seal this off. Now this top has a hole in it. When you put the top on there, you can put on this as just a regular old bulb pump. You put it on there, it will suck fresh air into that, so when this is stuck down inside the radiator, it'll draw up the hydrocarbons and turn that blue fluid green. Now this is the method that comes with the kit that you can buy, and it just sucks up a little bit of air at a time. We've actually come up with a better way to make it a little bit more stable. Now many of you that have been doing air conditioning work over the years have one of these air vac pumps. We don't use them a whole lot anymore because our evacuation machines will actually draw the vacuum on air conditioning. But that's what this was designed for, is to pull a vacuum on air conditioning. Basically just took a regulator and hook it up to shop air. And then we've got a hose over here that has a little fitting in it. That little fitting then will just squeeze right down into the cap here. And you can see that it is going to draw the air up. Now that's going to draw a steady amount of air, which is going to draw fluid up to mix it in with this blue test fluid. Now many of you have these typical radiator refill funnels. That's what we're going to use for this. Now this is good for showing you if you have a real bad head gasket leak. You simply hook this up to the radiator cap, and you hook your funnel in right here. Now we'll start the engine. Now there's various ways you can do this. If you have a very bad head gasket leak, when you put this down in here, it should draw the air up and turn that fluid from blue to green. But we don't have a bad head gasket leak. Now if your radiator's full, it could actually back some antifreeze up in here, and this could actually have antifreeze in it. Now this is a real good method if you've got a pretty obvious head gasket leak. But for one that's a little bit more minor or possibly intermittent, you can use the same thing here. Only this time we're going to just stick it right in the top of the radiator. Okay, our fluid's blue, and we're going to put it right inside the radiator. Some of the radiators will have an overflow tube. You just need to check. If when you put this down here, it will seal off that tube, then you don't need to plug it off. But if it does plug it off, you can simply put that down in there. You may use some vice grips or some type of a clamp tool to close that off. Now we're going to let the engine run for a little bit, and we're going to let that constant air vacuum start pulling that fluid in. I'm going to rev the engine up just a little bit. Now, if you do that, that is not turning it blue to green. What we've done is suck up some antifreeze. If you get that, that's an invalid test. We need to reload our test tube. Now we've reloaded with fresh fluid. Now you can try this bulb method where you just pump up some of it in there like that. Now again, if you had a real bad head gasket leak, that would probably pump that up right like that. That's why we like to use the air, because we don't have to sit here and pump it. Now with this pushed down, it's sealing tight. You may have to crack it just a little bit. If the head gasket is very bad, it's going to go quickly. You might have to leave it down here several minutes to actually see it change colors. Now you can see that the fluid has turned green. Now here's a little trick. Sometimes you wonder if you've actually sucked up some antifreeze. But if you basically just do this, raise it up and leave the air, it's going to suck up fresh air and your fluid should turn blue again. If it doesn't turn blue again and it actually stays green, then yes, you may have actually sucked up some antifreeze. But if you leave this run for a few minutes and that fluid turns a nice blue color, clear blue color again, then you know your test was valid, that you didn't suck up antifreeze into the test tube. Now the reason it's turning a blue again is because it's drawing in fresh oxygen, not hydrocarbons. It's the hydrocarbons that draw into this that turn that green. So when we pull it out of the radiator and draw in oxygen again, there's no hydrocarbons, so the fluid is turning back blue. Now you don't want to reuse this. I would dispose of it. I wouldn't put it back in your container and use it again. Now just to show you how distinct this can be, what we're basically doing, we're back at the tailpipe. We've got a hose there. We've got our exhaust gases, and we're going to put our pipe right in there. Now we're back at the tailpipe, and we're just sucking up pure hydrocarbons. And you can see that it's actually turning it yellow. It goes from green to yellow. Now we're still drawing in fresh air, and it should turn that fluid back to blue again. It's gone from yellow back to green. And now it's beginning to turn blue again. So what we're doing is sucking fresh oxygen in here, and that fluid is responding to that. So if your fluid turns green, what you have is exhaust hydrocarbons being sucked up in here, changing this fluid color. It confirms the fact that you have a head gasket or a head problem. Now if you actually want to get more sophisticated and more accurate test, and you have a 5-gas analyzer available at your shop, that would tell you as well. But if you don't have one of those, these are pretty conclusive. We pulled the head off, and now we'll show you where it was actually leaking. If we look in close here, as we look at this is the bad cylinder over here, we can see where it was leaking actually right here. It was pitted down into the head, and then it was breaking through the fire ring right there. So combustion gas was going past this valve right into the coolant passageway. Now as we look at the head gasket laying on the bench, you can see the fire ring, and then right here it was actually breaking through to the water jacket.